Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. On the agenda tonight we have Richie Kotzen, and this is going to be coming from 2015 and it's going to be Fooled Again. So let's get Richie up on screen and see how he gets on. I'm just going to jump in here because I'll just end up watching the whole video and not saying anything, because this is right up my street, as many of you will know, when my hairstyle kind of gives it away. He's played with Poison and Mr. Big, more recently the Winery Dogs, of course, but you can hear that 80s influence in his playing and certainly in some of his lead work as well. He's got a lot of technique, which we're going to see a little bit later. But first of all, let's mention Richie's voice. He's got such a great vocal. Even if he wasn't a great guitarist and just strummed out some chords, he'd have a great vocal. Some points to me, it sounds almost like Chris Cornell vocally, because it is such a strong vocal, and whenever somebody's playing guitar and singing at the same time, I always say that it doubles the difficulty. Of course, Chris could play guitar as well, but Richie is very much more in that lead guitarist vein. He's got some serious chops and some serious techniques going on that he could totally break off into a lead and melt your face if he wants to, which we're going to see a little bit later. But vocally so strong. So the hammer-ons, the pull-offs, and vibrato on chords here as well. It works so well with serious lyrics and something that's a little bit deeper than people explored in the 80s. So Richie, especially, I mean, this is 2015, I think. So the fact that he's got this really great edgy sound, a bit of attitude in there, great vocal, but also great technique. You can see we actually get to see the right hand here in a few close-up shots. It's great to have these camera angles here because you can see how he's employing this finger style, using thumb and first finger, occasionally second finger as well, but using that for all of his playing, all of his rhythm work and his lead playing as well. The synchronization is absolutely on the ball, which we're going to see in the solo section, but something to look out for. Great angles we've got with this video to see the right hand technique and the left hand technique as well. But let's get into it a little bit more. Too strong, not too weak, I can't turn around from a stranger. I'm feeling, I'm tempted still. I can't be let back away. But now you're playing the fool again. Yeah, I am. gonna jump in here. What a cool lead break that was. And all over the vibrato, something that I mention all the time with the top players, Richie has got that really wide, controlled vibrato. It's never out of control. He's always totally on it. As you can see from the camera angles here, it's great on that right hand. You can see the way that he's picking those strings when he's playing the lead. Obviously, he can play two strings independently very quickly after each other because he's not having to move a pick up and down. He can play thumb finger and then instantly follow with the first finger if he wants to get some really cool effects, some really cool lines going on there. Of course, without alternate picking, that means that he's doing a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs here, but the technique is absolutely spot on. And by no means has he got small hands. He's got quite a nice stretch going on there. So he can throw together lines that other people might not be able to reach with that little finger pulling off the first finger. We had a really nice combination there that just gives it a different sound. Just playing it a lot higher than you normally would do with a little finger pulling off the first finger gives it a really cool, almost an arpeggio sound. Arpeggio are the notes of a chord, if you don't know what that is, but you find that a lot in sweeping as well. Obviously, Richie is a great technical player. He can do sweeping as well, but the hammer-ons and pull-offs here are totally on it. And the way that that solo is actually composed, it's like a story within the song, and this is what great players do. They don't just go off endlessly and spend, 20 or 30 seconds in the same position on the guitar. They will start to build a story within the song. What I love about Richie's solo here is the fact that it's composed in such a way, or at least that he's got it down in such a way to build a crescendo towards the end. So he's ending with a high bend. Sometimes you'll find guitarists, when they're playing a solo, they'll spend a lot of time in one place and then they'll end the solo in the same place, and you haven't really gone anywhere. Whereas the art in playing a solo is to take you on a journey so that at the end of the journey, you're right at the top of the mountain. That's where you finish. That's like the pinnacle at the end. And always ending with a really cool high vibrato bend is such a great way to end a solo. And Richie does it on this solo here. Prime example of how to compose a solo within a song and take you on a journey. And I just want to point out the fact that Richie is supplying the vocal over the top of riffs here. It's not just strumming out chords. And if you do play guitar, you'll know the difference, that when you're playing a riff that might be a syncopated riff, or the timing might be off with the vocal that you're supplying, it's a hell of a lot more difficult to get that phrasing right on the vocal, because the phrasing on the guitar will be different. So he really is making this look easy, but this is by no means the same as just strumming along with a few chords and singing. There's so much more to it than that, but let's get into a little bit more. Just going to jump in there, that little flip into head voice that Richie did there, total control of his vocal. For the most part, he's pushing it, really belting it in chest voice, and he gets that great gravelly sound at the top of his range. When he flips up to head voice there, it's just to give you something different, just to make it even more interesting, as if it's not interesting enough. But an absolutely flawless vocal technique going on here with Richie, as well as flawless guitar lead playing technique. going to jump in here because there was so much in that lead break. So much great technique going on here dynamically. We're now going to be bringing it down after this great solo that we've just heard. But we had a great angle actually of the right hand that I mentioned when he's using the thumb and the first finger, and the fact that he can follow those two strings really closely after each other because of that technique. And you actually got to see it in action there. So once you pair that together with hammer-ons and pull-offs with the left hand, you can get some really fast phrases going on, and Richie absolutely throws that together seamlessly. And another thing you'll notice is when Richie gets into those more technical elements of playing, you'll see that thumb go behind the neck in that more kind of classical position to get the stretch in. What you'll find is that obviously the more you can stretch on the fretboard, the more notes you can follow after each other, because you can get first, second, third and little finger on. You can tap with your right hand as well if you want even more notes, but it means that you'll be able to play a lot faster passages on one string just because you're using all of your fingers by stretching those fingers out. And in order to get that stretch, your thumb has to come behind the neck. You'll see Van Halen doing this as well, loads of 80s guys, when they go into those more technical passages with either tapping or a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs with the left hand, or alternate picking with a big stretch. That thumb will always get behind that fretboard. And he's not just sticking to basic pentatonics here and blue scale. He's throwing a lot of shapes in there, and he's using them all really melodically. There's some sections where he's pulling off to an open string, but melodically it's working. It's not just pulling off for the sake of playing something fast or trying to play something impressive. Everything he's playing that's faster in nature is melodic, as well as those slower passages with that great vibrato on is really melodic too. The melody he's got going on vocally as well just perfectly complements his guitar playing. I could talk about this all night, and I could probably watch this video all night as well, just have it on repeat. But I don't want this video to go on for too long. I'm going to put the link to this in the description below so you guys can check out the whole thing. I suggest that you do, because we're going to get into some really great dynamic playing here. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at in the first place. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!